Hi everyone! Welcome to the Gardens at Graveyard channel. My name's Charisma and today we're hanging out in the studio because it's kind of wet and rainy out there. And I'm going to do a sort of a book review, but not really. I thought it might be fun to share with you all, like once a month, books that I've been diving into for the month. And I'm one of those readers. I will read a fiction book cover to cover, no problem. But you start getting me into like educational books or self-help books or biographies, anything that's real. I get really scattered and I always just have a pile of books next to me and I'm kind of gleaning from all of them. And so, like I said, a fiction book, I'll just dive in and get lost and have a ton of fun. But all the other categories and genres, I tend to just sort of pick and play throughout the month while I'm reading them. So this month, my interest has been around trees because I really want to add some more trees onto the property. And we have an opportunity to do that on the far side of the creek. But I have to be really mindful of what gets planted there because it's mostly not my property. And what is on my property is actually creek, which can't be owned by anyone, right? So it's like, yeah, it runs through my property, but I don't have water rights, and I don't, like, the banks of that creek are not mine. But I want to be a good steward of the land and the areas around me, and I've talked to the Water and Soil Conservation District, and I've talked to the PUD, and so long as I plant things over there that are not going to get in the power lines, they're not going to be invasive, and like if their seeds fall into the creek and get taken off my property, they're not going to be an invasive species that's going to wreak havoc down the stream somewhere. I'm not supposed to put anything in there like synthetics or things that would, be bad for the soil or contaminate the water or anything like that, obviously. So as I'm planning out this area and what I'm going to plant there, I want to lean heavily on natives, but I will likely lean a little bit on cultivars of natives because natives are beautiful, but I really want this to be a just like wow factor beautiful cutting garden, because I don't have very many areas in my own garden that are full sun, and this bank would be full sun. And then it, as it gets close to the creek, it turns into shade. So there's a huge variation of climates, of sun availability on the bank, so I can play with a lot of different kinds of plants. But I think it's really important, if you have the opportunity, to put your trees in first, to do that. So I've been looking at what does it look like to plant on the edge of the property, on the edge of the world, because I live on the Oregon coast, literally on the edge of the Americas. So it's just like a fun place to be, just walking the edge. So I've been looking at 3 books pretty much this month, and of course Professor Google has played his part. But one of the books that I've been reading is The Grow System, and this is the essential guide to modern self-sufficient living, from growing food to making medicine, with Marjorie Wildcraft. And Marjorie Wildcraft is the founder of the Grow Network. So if you're not in the Grow Network or you haven't used them as a resource, I highly recommend it. And anything that Marjorie does, she is just a hoot and the most sweetest, endearing heartful woman, and I absolutely adore her. So I highly recommend checking her out, getting her book, going to the Grow Network, seeing what she has to offer. Anyway, so this book has so many chapters and so many wonderful things, but one of the sections, and you can see, look at my spine, it's falling apart. I read the heck out of this book. One of the sections talks about incorporating foraging and wild tending to your life, and I just absolutely love that. She tells this great story that doesn't really have to do with gardening, and it's just like a really good, delicious story, but it starts making you think of the ways that you can tend to the spaces in your garden and in your life, and how we can do it in a way that is sustainable and that is beautiful as well. So when I'm thinking of foraging on the edge, I'm thinking, okay, I want to grow brambles, so raspberries and blackberries and huckleberries, and I want to grow Oregon grapes. So that's a lot of pokey stuff, and I want to make sure that I'm putting those things in spaces that allow me to move around, because I also want to grow like foxglove and lupin and like really beautiful, big, showy native flowers. Another book that I've been kind of looking at is Gaia's Garden. And this is the Guide to Home-Scale Permaculture by Toby Hemingway. And he had a great area, if I remember to, where is it? Oops. What I really liked about this book is he's got this really great graph of all of the shrubs and small trees that are 3 to 50 feet tall, and which is really great for me. And then it shows really clearly that it takes shade, it takes part sun, it takes full sun, and that's like an easy, quick way that I can see what's going to grow there. And then it has the hardiness zone, so I can quickly look at that, and it shows, let's see, talks about different heights, and talks about different soil needs, all that kind of good stuff. But it also talks about what kind of uses the shrubs and trees have. Like, is it good for dyeing? Is it good for eating? Is it good for like dyeing clothes? Not like murder dyeing. Is it good for fiber? Like all these different ways that we might look at the trees that we decide to grow. And I like that it tells me how tall they are, because I need to be mindful of what I grow underneath the power lines. And then this book has so very many references of having sort of that wild landscape, that cottagey, living on the edge kind of landscape that allows you to grow and forage and just create something that feels I don't know, sacred in some way. This is the section that I've been kind of really looking at, and it's all about plants for the forest garden and growing a food forest. And I really love the idea of growing a part of my land that's super dense with easy to grow, low maintenance plants that provide food and medicine for my family and my community. Because if I'm planting all these things on the edge, I have to expect that I'll be sharing these plants with my neighbors, with the deer, with the bears, the birds, and anyone else who might be walking by and think that that juicy gooseberry is just what they needed right then in that moment. So I really love the food forest section of this book. And then the last book that I've been reading is The Hellstrip Gardening. And this is How You Create a Paradise Between the Sidewalk and the Curb by Evelyn J. Haddon. This is, the Hellstrip is technically for city dwellers. So if you're a city dweller, pay attention. You know that little strip between your yard, and then there's a sidewalk, and then there's a strip of lawn or ground cover, and then there's the curb, and then the street. This book is all about how to plant out that little strip that typically in some jurisdictions it's considered part of your property. Most jurisdictions it's considered city property, but you are in the same boat as I am as far as like planting under my power lines and taking over a creek bank that nobody's taking care of. If you are mindful and don't create more maintenance for your city, they're going to leave that strip alone and let you grow whatever you want in it. And it's called a hell strip because it's hell to plant in that area. You have so much traffic. You have car traffic. You have people opening their doors and stomping on those strips. You have people walking up and down those sidewalks, kids running around. That is like a really common place for people to let their dogs go to the bathroom and not pick up after them. And of course, kids running around. Plus then that little strip of land is, on both sides is just feet and feet and feet of concrete. So it's really hot. There's often no irrigation, and there's sometimes no place for the roots to go if the concrete is layered deep enough. The roots don't have any place to go besides right there in that little strip. So I really love this book for that reason. And it, basically just helps you pick out plants that will grow in the crappiest conditions ever and just be really, really beautiful, or even provide food for our families. So those are the books that I have been kind of leaning on this month, and I don't have any real specific I don't have anything really specific to say about any one of those 3 books except for what I've been leaning on them. With reference books like that, I tend to get an idea in my head, and I'm not going to read it cover to cover. I'm just going to dive into that portion of the book so that I can learn what I need to learn about the thing that's interesting to me at the moment. And right now it's all about creating a really beautiful space on that bank that I don't have to maintain. It's right next to a gravel road. It has no irrigation. The top of the bank is full baking sun all day long, all summer. And then it catches a lot of wind. And down closer to the creek, it's in full shade. It's cold and it's damp. And the soil down by the creek is a lot more clay. And the soil up on the bank is probably sand, because that's what my garden is. But it is so full of roots from Gualtheria and blackberry and evergreen trees that there's no nutrition left at all. Like, those evergreens are taking it all, and then there's just roots. It's like pine duff and roots is what is on that bank. So I'm gonna have to provide a lot of extra compost and mulch to help any kind of plant survive up there. So they really just need to be plants that are super, super tough. And they need to be worth my time, effort, and money to place in there, because you know, if it's not my land and the city has the right to come in and just mow it all down, I don't want thousands and thousands of dollars invested in it, right? So taking information from places like these books where they're talking about Hellstrip gardening, and where you're gardening in areas that nobody gets to garden in and make a beautiful garden anyways with these particular types of plants. And they're talking about plants like lavenders and Russian sage and Nephofia, probably things like Echinacea or black-eyed Susans. Those types of plants really thrive, or even sunflowers, some pretty hardy or like tough kind of leafy vegetables like kales will grow in areas like that, without, you know, with a lot of neglect. And that's what I need. I want to grab a couple of sprinklers that I can shoot up there throughout the summer, like the hottest months, so that, you know, I give them some chance of survival. And I will bring in compost to give them a good start, but I'm not going to constantly be replenishing that entire hillside. Definitely not ripping everything out to start fresh. And a lot of the plants that I'm going to be planting there are either plants that I grow from seed, because that is a far more economic way to grow a mass amount of plants, or whips, or you know, whips are just like sticks of trees, or either divisions or things that people give me to put out there. So they really have to be tough. So and I really love the idea of the forest food garden, or the food forest from this book, because I really would love to be able to grow more medicines and more food. And then, you know, of course, the grow system, as far as growing on the edge, it was more just like inspirational stories that Marjorie tells, but I do highly recommend this book. And I did read a whole lot of it this month, just because she pulls me through and I just absolutely love it. I'll even read a little excerpt from the beginning of the book. It's under the heading, More Than Just a Garden. And she says, I really felt the power of my strongly knit community a number of years ago when I got a call from a guy I knew who had recently started an organic greenhouse to grow tomatoes. His first attempt at growing them had failed, and so did his second. But the third time was a charm. He produced so many tomatoes he didn't know what to do with them all. Hey, Marjorie, he said to me when I answered the phone, if I showed up tomorrow with a trailer full of fresh, organic, fully ripe tomatoes, would you want them? Give me 5 minutes to figure out where I'm going to put them, and I'll get back to you. She called a couple of neighbors, and within minutes they had organized a community canning party. How amazing is that? That is the kind of community that I would love to be a part of, to create, to, you know, to participate in. And I think we would all just be living in a better world if we created more gardens like that. So I'm excited to, well, for one, we'll be going on the journey together, because I will be continuing to develop the creekside as we started to do last year, where I was really just cleaning it out. And I did plant some things. I'm going to continue to do that. And I know it's going to be a long, long project. And, but I'm excited. I think I'll dive into it a little bit deeper this year. I'm also kind of excited just to talk about books, at least like once a month. And if you have books that you like, they're your go-to, you love this garden book, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. So make sure you post your favorite book in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed, and make sure you like this video so that we stay connected and that our community can continue to grow. I will see you in the next video, and I hope you are celebrating your life. Bye.